Hi everyone, I'm Lori Mirabelli, an abstract artist from Toronto, Canada, and today we're going to do a varnishing video. So many of you have asked for this. So when you ask questions or you ask for certain videos, I try and share that information with you. So today, get set, we are varnishing 2 paintings, so stay tuned. All right. Before we get started, I need to share with you the tools that I use for varnishing my paintings. So it's a 2-step process if I'm using anything that's water soluble. So you don't want to brush on anything that's liquid onto your canvas if you've used anything that's water soluble, because it's gonna smudge, it's gonna smear, it's gonna blend, it's gonna blur. So you don't wanna do that to your beautiful brand new painting. So if I've used something water soluble, then I'm gonna use Krylon. It's a matte finish. The reason I use matte finish is I don't want there to be a buildup of, I always forget to turn my phone off. 1 second. I use the matte varnish because I don't want there to be a buildup of varnish onto my canvas. So as I said before, if I use water soluble, then you spray it first. And this should be sprayed outdoors. So you are gonna see me do a mock spray. I am not spraying indoors. I have already sprayed these. I did them outside. I completely spaced on the fact that I probably should have filmed it, but I think it's kind of self-explanatory. You just, like spray the canvas, right? Spray the canvas. Then once that dries, I bring it indoors and I lay it flat. And I use, this is Liquitex Satin Varnish. So this is a bottle that I use. I should be doing all of this while I'm doing a voiceover. Don't you think? Pause that. Let's get started. Okay, so this is always the fun part, is trying to get the studio clear, make room so that I can set up my varnishing table. I don't like to keep it out. I don't paint flat, so I never keep my table out. It's always nice to have a folding table that you can take out when you need it and put it away when you're done. So let's get that set up. Table is set. I'm gonna put that in view for you guys so that you can keep a look and see it better. I don't have a camera from up above, so you're gonna have to bear with me. So this is the first painting that we're gonna varnish. And as you can see, I did use some, well, I don't know if you can see, but I did use some water soluble mark making stuff that if I just varnished without the spray, it's really not gonna look good. So I have already sprayed that. So I would be outside, I'm not spraying indoors, this is just for pretend, but you're gonna shake that up, right? Really important to make sure that you shake your can for at least 1 to 2 minutes and make sure the ball's just not going around and around and around, otherwise you're not really shaking it up. So give it a good back and forth. And then you're gonna spray. I don't have to spray the entire painting. That's just a waste of varnish. Because this is a matte finish, there's no buildup, so it doesn't have to be even at all. So what I would simply do is I would just go through all of the areas that I know are water soluble and I would spray them all. Nothing really too challenging, right? Just continue, spray them all. And then I would let this sit for probably maybe a half an hour to an hour, sometimes overnight. This I sprayed yesterday, so it's definitely ready to be brush varnished. So you shouldn't shake your varnish, don't shake your varnish. But I do like to at least do a once over, just to make sure there's no settling on the bottom. Sometimes that does happen, depends how long it sits. The second thing, what's really important, is your brush. I use a really fine brush. It's got, I think, natural bristles. And it's actually, I forgot to wash it out one day, so the bottom of the brush is actually stiff. So I'm only using the top portion of this brush, but for some reason, it really does a nice varnish. I never get brush strokes, but I also think that's, if you're using a good product for varnish, brush strokes just kind of, it's almost like self-leveling. So it doesn't leave brush marks. And I'm gonna just put it on. And you have to work kind of quick because varnish does dry fast. And I'm gonna go back and forth. I'm gonna try not to go over the edges too much, or spill onto the floor. You don't want to overbrush your painting. It could make your varnish a bit cloudy. So just a couple of light brushes. I'm using very minimal pressure on my brush. I'm just allowing it to slowly move that varnish over, making sure that I get the edges. And once I know, if you look in the light and you lift it up a little bit, I can see areas of varnished where I missed. And so to make sure I miss no spots, now that I have it spread out perfectly, I'm going to go up and down, making sure that every inch is covered. And this is, take your time with this, don't rush it. Now that I've gone that way, I want to go back the other way. And the other way would be horizontal. So the pattern is, whether you do a horizontal or a vertical, doesn't matter which order, but these are the two movements that you should be making. You want to make sure that there's no bubbles, which is why you go a little bit slower, and no pooling. Do a final check. I got just a couple areas here where I got maybe just a little bit too much. There you go. It's a perfectly varnished painting. Now, what you need to do is you cannot pick this up and lay it somewhere else like this. You cannot do this. You have to let it dry while it's still in this flat position. That way you get no drippage or like no drip marks with the varnish. So I am going to move this painting to another area. I have another flat surface that I can use. So careful not to smudge any of the varnish, keeping it flat. So this week I sold 2 paintings, so I have 2 paintings that need to be varnished. And I like to varnish them all together at the same time, then I don't have to keep washing my brush out. And so same process goes. This one's a little bit bigger, so I'm not gonna apply my varnish all the way around because I want to make sure that it doesn't start to dry on me before I can get to the other side. And the way I have it set up right now, the light is just perfect, so I can really see where I'm missing any spots. Some spots there. So, sorry guys, I have to work a little bit faster on this one because it's larger. If it was really large, you have to do sections because you just don't want that varnish to dry on you. And I am going a little bit too fast. I am creating some varnish bubbles, but that will all come out once I do the horizontal and vertical brush strokes. Okay, so I think it's pretty covered. Okay. Oh, it's not covered. I missed a whole area. The key is not to miss any areas. Okay, I think I'm there. I'm going to start doing my back and forth because this stuff dries so fast. I've often wondered why this product has to be so fast drying. And I can still see some little spots that I missed, but it's all right. Because this back and forth is going to catch them all. That's why it's important to do both horizontal and both verticals. Okay. And you want to make sure that you're overlapping your brush strokes. So you're almost only moving half the width of the brush at a time so that you're ensuring that you're getting full coverage. And this is why it's important to have a long handled brush. Again, I'm using really very little pressure on this brush. As you can see, I'm holding it with 2 fingers, just lightly gliding on top of the surface. Final check. Sometimes I get drips. I don't like drips, so I clean them off. All right, now they're perfectly varnished painting. I'm gonna be right back. We're gonna let this dry for about an hour and then we'll touch base again. Once the painting is all dry, I don't know if you can see that, but there are no streaks. You can't see that I did any brushing back and forth. That's the blissful part about a satin varnish. So the final thing before I get it all wrapped up and packaged for the buyer is I just like to fix up the edges, make sure they're, nicely done, and that there's nothing, no marks, that it's a nice clean black edge. And how I do that is I just use a roller brush and a plate that I have used forever. I try and use these roller brushes for as long as I can. This one has seen a better day. It's almost time to retire it. But I just quickly go around the edges. I've already done this one, so it just needs a quick little touch up. Nothing too crazy. Some of you ask why I do black edges. Some of my clients like to frame their originals in a floating frame, a black one, and it looks a lot nicer when the outside of the painting is done in black and then it sits inside a floating frame. So that's one of the reasons why. It also, I am a bit of a perfectionist. I like things to be neat. It's funny because my studio is a disaster right now. But I like everything to be finished. I don't know if you can even see that. That's probably one you can't see. Let me put this down a little bit. I don't know if that's any better for you, but it's really simple. I don't get too nervous. I do the edges of my painting. I bring the wrap around, like meaning when I'm painting this, I like there to be a really thin line of black that goes around the edges of my painting on the front side. I just find that completes the painting, almost wraps it around. And that's how I varnish and do the edges of my painting to get them ready to ship out to clients. So if you like this video and you found it helpful, please give me a thumbs up, comments down below, and I will see you guys all soon.